In this video, we want to have a deeper look into intents. So what is an intent? An intent is simply just some kind of messaging object. So we can interact with other components of an application based on an intent. Now we've got implicit and explicit intents. And the difference is it's very simple. Implicit simply means we do not know the destination application right now where we want to send this intent to. This sounds absolutely crazy, but this is a common behavior. And for example, let's say we want to open an email program. So we've got a mail to link and we want to start an email program. So our application doesn't know which email program we want to use. Is it Outlook, Gmail, or maybe some kind of third-party application on our device? We do not know this right now. We simply send out this event. Hey, we want to open an email right now. Give us an application that can handle this. And then those applications can react to this event. Okay? So implicit simply means we do not know the destination application right now. All right. Then we've got explicit. And yeah, you guessed it. Explicit simply means we know exactly what we want to start. In our case right now, let's say we've got a logging activity. After successfully logging in, we do not want to start a random application. We want to start the profile activity in this application right now. So this one over here. By clicking on the settings button, we want to start the settings activity. And then there's also this code activity. So within an explicit intent, we know exactly the destination, what we want to call. This can be an activity within our application, or it can be also an activity with a completely different application. This is perfectly fine if it is exported, of course. All right? Okay. Does this only work with activities? No, this also works with broadcast receivers and services, but it doesn't work with content provider. We will learn more about this in several topics, so within the content provider topic. Okay, so for now we know we've got implicit and explicit intents, and we can use intents regarding to activities, broadcast receivers and services, even if we haven't talked about them right now, but we will do this in a couple of videos. Now let's have a look into some practical example. How do they look like and what do we need to take care of? Okay. So we start with explicit intents. If we take our application, then we've got here those 4 activities. Explicit means we know the destination, what we want to call, for example, profile settings or code. And regarding to real code, it looks like this one over here. So this is the code how to start a new activity in our application. So what we need to do is we need to create a new intent object and we have to provide 2 parameters. The first one is our current context, the logging activity, so our source. And the second parameter is simply just the destination address. In this case, it's the profile activity class. This means we are now within the logging activity. So of course, we have to check if the username and the password has been entered correct. But if this is the case, we can enter this piece of code to move on in our application. So we simply use this start activity and then we provide our new intent object, which has been created just a line before. This is the way to start a new activity in our Android system. Alrighty? Okay, one last thing we need to know, and then we are already mostly done with our intent knowledge, is that we can also provide certain information to the next instance. For example, to the profile activity class. We could say, for example, we are logging in as a certain user because this information or all these information might get lost if we are starting a new activity. So our current activity gets destroyed and we are having a new screen content. Yes, we could store this in global variables, but I mean, this is not a really good approach. We could simply pass information from one activity to another based on intents. In this case, we are doing this for the username. Let's say we are logging in into this application as the user admin, this one over here. Now in the profile activity, it would be nice if we can see which user we are now logged in right now. And also the profile data and of course the permissions regarding to this user. We can pass this information based on an intent. And this looks like the following over here. So here we can see we are starting now an activity, but this time with parameters. We have exactly the same 2 lines. So we have our new intent object. We've got our source, our this operator, and then we've got the destination profile activity class. But this time we've got this intent put extra. And here we can now provide certain fields. For example, strings, Boolean values, integers, and more. So over here we can see we are providing a username and an admin, and then we are starting this activity. So after successfully logging in as admin, the information admin will be passed from the logging activity into the profile activity. How does this look like? Well, it's not that hard. It's shown over here. This is the code of the profile activity. And here we can see this activity simply gets this intent with the getIntent function. And then we can access those fields via intent get string extra username. Now we can assign this username, which has been passed from the logging activity, into a local variable of our profile activity. All right? Perfect, because this is everything we need to know about explicit intents. We know the destination address, what we want to call, and we also can pass certain parameters in there. Okay, so now let's talk about implicit intents, this one over here. So within an implicit intent, we do not know the destination address. And this sounds absolutely ridiculous, but this keeps happening all the time on our smartphone. Let's say we receive an SMS, and this SMS has this mail to string in there, like this one over here. If we're clicking on this, we have the opportunity to open a mail application, but in this case, we do not know which mail application. So the system is sending out this intent. So here we are having this intent. Hey, the user wants to open an email application. Which application wants to react to this one? And our mail application says, oh, that sounds perfectly fine for me. I am a mail application. I would like to open this link in my mail app. And then the mail application occurs on our screen. So this is the story behind an implicit intent. I mean, this will be more clear if we talk about broadcast receivers, because then it makes absolutely sense. But I do not want to spoiler that much right now and mix everything together. Alright, within an implicit intent, we have the same opportunity to pass certain information to this application. For example, in this case, the email address. And this is now also a little bit of a problem, because this implicit intent will be, let's say, broadcasted to the other applications, and they can react to this one. And so what we could do is we could create a malicious application that listens to this type of intents. So it's sniffing this, let's call it bus system, for those kind of information. And this is called intent sniffing. This means we are having something like a Wireshark on our intents and looking for which information are being passed between those applications. I mean, this is not a really secure channel. It could be secure if it's being programmed correctly, but this is not often the case. And so intent sniffing could be pretty dangerous right now if you share secret information via this system. All right? Okay, last but not least, we've got our intent filters. And then we have completed this topic right now. So what is an intent filter? If we click on this app icon, then our launching activity will be launched. I mean, that's why it's the launching activity. These launching attributes has been defined via an intent filter. So if we take a look into our Android manifest XML, then we can see we've got this intent filter, and we also got those two tags. We've got an action and a category tag. Action has the intent action main, and category has the category launcher. So an intent filter is really just a filter for our Android application. There are a lot of information being exchanged all the time on our bus system, which we have seen just right before this slide. And this filter is simply just filtering them out. So we are just listening to certain events. In this example, an intent with the action main and the category launcher, which means if we click on our app icon, then this intent will be fired and we can react to this one. So we can say, okay, now our application has been started, let's react to this one. And so it's simply just listening all the time to the bus system and filtering out. These information are regarding to this application, I need to react to them, and all the others, they will be ignored. This is what an intent filter is doing. Alrighty? Okay. Then we've got certain tags in an intent filter. For example, we've got action, we also got category, and we've got data. And data is not shown over here, but it can be also included in an intent filter. Alright, now's the question, what does they mean? And to be honest, this is absolutely confusing, and we will look them directly up right now because I keep forgetting them all the time. Okay, to do this, we simply type in intent Android developer into our search engine of choice, and then we can see intent within the Android developer documentation. So let's have a look. Alright, and here we can see the definition of an intent. Okay, we have already talked about this, but where can we find now those categories in action? On the right, we can see standard actions for activities and standard actions for broadcast receivers. We haven't talked about broadcast receivers yet, but we can already see that they got different action names over here. Okay? You do not have to worry about this because you will anyway look them up, because no one can mesmerize all those actions. Like we can see them on the right. It's absolutely ridiculous, but that you get a feeling what an action is. Okay, so let's have a look. Here we've got actions. Okay. Here we've got categories, and here we can see standard external or extra data. So these are our three main topics: actions, categories, and data. Let's have a look into activity actions. Okay, we can see here we've got the action main. Okay, and we can also see the most important and by far most frequently used are action main and action edit. Let's see what action main is. Start as a main entry point does not expect to receive data. Input nothing, output nothing, constant value. Alright, this is simply just the entry point of an application, like we have already mentioned this all the time. So we have already learned this without knowing this, that this one over here is it's an intent action. Okay, cool. What else do we have? Let's go back. Maybe let's see. Action call, action dial. So let's see, action dial. Activity action, dial a number as specified by the data. This shows a UI with the number being dialed, allowing the user to explicitly instantiate the call. So this is simply just calling a number. We've got an action for this one. And so by browsing through all of them, okay, maybe you do not have to take a look into all of them, but into some, you get a feeling what this type of action is. As already mentioned, I also do not mesmerize all of them. I simply look them up. Another one which is also pretty nice is the action chooser. Activity action, display an activity chooser, allowing the user to pick what they want to before proceeding. Okay. This can be used as an alternative to the standard activity picker. This is displayed by the system when you try to start an activity with multiple possible matches. So sometimes you get some screen. Do you want to open it with the browser or, for example, within a given application on your smartphone? This is the action chooser. So we've got a lot of actions for certain tasks, and this is how we can use them, or what they are being used for in this case right now. All right, maybe let's have a look into the categories. Well, let's see. We've got category launcher. So we have already looked up main is simply just the main entry point. And then we got this category launcher within our intent filter. So let's see. It should be displayed in the top level launcher. Constant value, all right. This sounds absolutely mysterious. So this simply means this activity should be visible in the main menu. So for example, the app icon should be on your screen. I guess this is how we can interpret this sentence right now. Okay. So the category is just a bonus. It adds additional information to our main event, our main action. And we can also look this up in the documentation. And for example, if we go back into the intent, so on the starting page over here, and then let's see. Yes, here we've got an overview. So action, the general action to be performed, such as action view, edit, or main. We have to look them up, but I mean, this is simply just get into the entry point of this application and things like this. Next, we've got data, which we haven't seen so far, but we've got a good explanation for this one. For example, we could provide this content URI. We will learn about content provider in a couple of videos. So here we can see we can display information about the person who is identified by the record 1, for example. So we can provide this together with an action view, and then this information are being displayed. All right. But we want to look up categories, so category over here gives additional information about the action to execute. For example, category launcher means it should appear in the launcher as a top level application. Okay, we have already talked about this. While category alternative means it should be included in a list of alternative actions the user can perform on a piece of data, whatever this means. We have to go down the rabbit hole and figure everything out. So this description isn't that helpful right now, but we get a feeling. Action, it's the action what we want to do. Category are additional information, and data are simply just a data that can be provided to our intent. Alrighty? Okay, I guess this is all we need to know. In the next video, we will do some practical examples, how to interact with intents, how to provide certain data, and things like this. So therefore, after the theory part, there's also some practical exercise we do together right now. So I'm looking forward to see you there.